Food for thought. Cash strapped families are eating pet food to survive cost of living crisis, this charity claims. So let's quickly check this out, right? Hold on, volume all the way up. Yep.
Eating pet food, shocked by the fact that we have people who are eating pet food, people who are trying to heat their food on a radiator or a candle. These are shocking kind of stories that are actually the truth. We know from trusted people that have ended up sharing this in tears with us.
Jesus Christ. Like, if you end up stumbling upon this, if you are not doing well financially, or if you know someone who's not doing well financially, do not resort to using or eating cat food or dog food or pet food. Look, if it gets super bad for your family financially in terms of food, do this and you still remain somewhat healthy ish and still get a lot of food for very cheap. Get multiple packs of any brand of ramen, right? Because there's a lot of brands of ramen that are like $2 for like what 12 different packs of it, like individual packs of it, which could serve for multiple meals. And then you buy a multivitamin, right? Because you're going to be vitamin deficient. So that is a good way to actually eat food that is not pet food and still get vitamins that you need, like nutrients that you actually need from the vitamins. It's just like, oh my god. The fact that people decide to eat cat food or dog food before just eating ramen is insane to me. Like, hey, don't do that. Like, that is not good for you at all. Oh my god. So, suffering families are eating pet food to survive the cost of living crisis, and charity claims. Mark Seed, who heads a community food project in Trowbridge, Cardiff, says poverty has hit areas so hard that people are having to go to the lowest levels just to feed their families. Whew, Lord. Mark claims that people constantly feeling the burden of soaring inflation have even turned to heating up food on their radiator. The community worker told the BBC, I'm still shocked by the fact that we have people who are eating pet food. There are people who are trying to heat their food on a radiator or a candle. These are shocking kind of stories that are actually the truth. Cardiff is a flourishing city, however, there are pockets of deprivation which are simply not acceptable. The pantry where Mark works is a community trust funded facility that aims to reduce food poverty in Cardiff and provide affordable food and household essentials to over 160 locals. One of the pantry's visitors is Elizabeth Williams, 54, who said the project makes a lot of difference and brings communities together during difficult times. She added, I usually go without to try to make things better in my house. Oh my god. Like, seriously. Like, this is the thing that people need to, like, actually spend their money on when things get tough. The roof over your head, the food that goes into your mouth, and transportation to basically go to wherever it is that you're working so that you could actually make money, right? Like, this is a very depressing, like, short article. If you're dealing with this or someone you know is dealing with this, suggest them to go the ramen and like vitamin route because you could get a lot of food for really cheap. I'm talking that you could probably get food like maybe for a month for like under $50 one time, right? Which would be good. You can save a lot of money by doing that, and you don't got to eat dog food or cat food. Like, please never eat pet food. My goodness. Mark also claims that people were not being paid enough to afford the essentials, with the cost of living crisis pushing prices way up so that everybody is squeezed or they just can't afford it. Last month, the cost of food rose again, with shop prices of groceries over 12% higher than last November. Mark added, what they are telling us is that they are working every hour they can. and he has called for people in struggling households to be given adequate support even when they do not appear in areas associated with poverty. The latest census results suggest that as a whole, Wales has seen an improvement in deprivation in the last 10 years. However, more than half of households, 54.1%, still fall into one of the categories used to measure it, either through being out of a job or long term sick, having poor health or a disability, low level of education, or living in an overcrowded or poorly heated home. And the new data suggests 6 of Wales' most deprived communities are in Cardiff. The list is topped by Mark's community, Trowbridge, and a part of Rumney in the north of the city, with 29 households that are classed as deprived in all 4 categories. This puts it within the worst 1% of more than 7,000 similar sized communities across England and Wales. Trowbridge lies in what Mark calls an arc of poverty from east to west of Cardiff. Mark added people who are in those positions of poverty would be the first to tell you that it's not easy to have a voice. It's not easy to have your dignity and show yourself as someone who counts, and unless you do that, no one is going to listen. Buildings go up, the economy flourishes, and firms move here, but there's a gap, and we're trying to close it. Feel free to give your thoughts on this situation, right? Because the reality is, no matter where you are located, because I know that is basically like I think in the UK, I think Cardiff, Wales, whatever's in the UK. I'm not good at geography, but I believe it's over there. So, what people need to understand is that money, personal finance, is extremely simple because there's not really a lot of things that change it, right? So, what I mean by that is that it's money, right? So, if you want to basically have more money in terms of like margin, right? There's only 2 ways to actually change that, right? Technically 3, but 2 main ways to actually change that, right? One, you find a way to make more money, or number 2, you find a way to spend less money. Ideally, you need to do both, which is to make more money and spend less money, but sometimes that is very hard for people in some situations, and sometimes you can't really continue to cut your costs because it comes down to you have an income issue, right? Like there comes to a point where you're simply just not making enough money. Like for example, if your expenses, your hard expenses like your mortgage, your insurances, food bills, everything, if all of your expenses are like $6,000, but you're only making $500 a month, yeah, that is a money problem. You need to make some money because there's no way that you should be even be alive at this point because those numbers don't even make sense, right? Like, and some people are in that situation where they're basically living off of credit cards because their financial situation is so bad. So just keep that in mind. Like, getting into a better financial situation is extremely simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It's just very simple to understand. If you're in this situation, what I would recommend, if I was in the situation where I was faced to potentially eat pet food, I would immediately buy ramen and a multivitamin and just water, right? Which is combined super cheap. Basically, buy a month's worth of food and drinks for basically nothing, and then do everything in my power to make more money so that I am never faced with the option that I may have to actually eat pet food to survive. Like, that is so beyond crazy to me that that would even go into someone's head like, oh yes, that is a great idea. Let's eat pet food because we are doing so bad money wise. Like, oh my god. Like, there are options out there, but still, never get yourself in a situation where that could even pop up. Never get yourself in a situation like that. That is such a scary, scary situation to be in. If you want to learn how to get out of debt and master your money and learn how I got out of debt and grew my net worth, go down below or go to 40unbox.com. Never get into a situation like this.